This week on Aussie JetSetter, come join me for a truly incredible and historic aviation adventure as I fly on QantasLink's inaugural Perth to Busselton service on the trusty old-time workhorse servicing regional West Australia that is of course the mighty Fokker 100. A flight so seemingly ridiculous that now becomes the quickest jet flight in the whole Qantas Group, and at only 200 kilometers in length, and for most would seem like a unviable alternative to what is already just a 2.5 hour drive. But what is the real point of this seemingly so unnecessary 3 times weekly half-hour flight? What onboard service can you really actually expect, if any, on such a ridiculously short flight? So without further ado, come join me to find out as we document in full what could very likely be a historic last ever inaugural flight for QantasLink's soon to be retired yet incredibly reliable and increasingly rare 30 plus year Fokker 100 fleet. Hello, good morning and welcome to Perth Airport. It's a beautiful sunny winter morning here in Perth. Actually done a little bit of plane spotting on the side of the road on Dunedin Drive at the threshold of runway 06. Actually here with Luke from Young Aussie Flyer, and it's going to be a very exciting day later this afternoon. We're going to be catching QantasLink's inaugural Fokker 100 service all the way down to Busselton Margaret River Airport. Some might ask, why the hell would you catch a flight between Perth and Busselton? It's literally only 2.5 hour drive, something I've done many times just driving. Could literally get there quicker driving than by going by the airport, going through security and all whatnot. But yeah, I guess Qantas really are banking with this new 3 times weekly service to capture some of the eastern states market connecting through Perth onto West Australia's southwest. So I guess it does make sense in some ways. Don't forget, we also do have now direct flights between Busselton and Melbourne, and also Busselton, Margaret River and Sydney. They have been quite successful. Believe it or not, it isn't actually the first time they had commercial passenger flights between Perth and Busselton either. I believe Virgin Australia Regional Airlines and before that SkyWest have operated on this route. Probably been well over a decade or so now. They actually do operate quite a lot of flights between Perth and Busselton, closed charter flights, also empty flights flying down to Busselton to service West Australia's mining and resources sector. A lot of FIFO traffic out of Busselton, so it isn't actually uncommon for both QantasLink, Virgin Australia Regional and also Alliance Airlines to fly Fokker 100s down there. But yeah, today is going to be the first passenger flight in a very long time. Aside from that, really looking forward once again to flying on the Fokker 100. Probably actually my favourite aircraft, a real staple here in West Australia. Perth really is the Fokker capital of the world. I've flown them 3 or 4 times before. This will only be my 2nd time reviewing it. It'll be Young Aussie Flyer's first time. So without further ado, let's now walk back to the terminal. It's about a half an hour walk or so from here. And yeah, we'll head to the airport. Already checked in, but yeah, hopefully there's some fanfare at the gate for the inaugural. So let's do it. Before we head over to Terminal 3 and 4, let's have a quick look at the route information for today's very historic inaugural flight down to Busselton. Flight QF1750. Great circle distance on this one is a ridiculously short 201 kilometers. Because their flight time is just 45 minutes, though today we're going to do it in just 33 minutes, which I dare say is slightly longer than normal due to the northerly takeoff out of Perth. Anyway, as you can see, we've done a bit of plane spotting on the side of Dunreef Drive at the threshold of runway 06. Take Dunreef Drive a little bit further along, a couple kilometres, you have the main Perth outdoor observation viewing area. Also on the approach to Terminal 3 and 4, you'll find an ever expanding retail precinct here at Perth Airport, which includes our direct factory outlet, shopping centre, a major Costco wholesale warehouse, and also several other retailers. A few food outlets have also popped up in recent years. As you might be familiar with, today we're flying out of the traditional domestic precinct here at Perth Airport, Terminal 3 and Terminal 4, which these days is all but the exclusive home of all Qantas and QantasLink operations. That includes Qantas's small network of international flights here from Perth. Do take note, however, Air North do technically also operate out of Terminal 3. which also includes our international wing for Qantas's fairly limited range of international services to Singapore, Rome, Paris, London, and soon also Auckland and Johannesburg, South Africa. Also do take note, while Jetstar have traditionally flown out of this side of the airport, this is no longer the case as of September last year. They now fly out of the mining and regional terminal, that is Terminal 2, adjacent to the main international terminal. For your information, Perth is the 4th most populated city in the whole of Australia, and quite unsurprisingly, this means it also has the 4th most busiest airport in the whole nation. And according to the latest statistics, the last financial year was the busiest year on record for Perth Airport, with a very impressive shy over 16 million passengers passing through Perth's 4 main airport terminals. If we were to categorise these statistics, believe it or not, intrastate travel, as we're doing today, is actually the most popular market segment for Perth Airport, with 5.7 million yearly passengers. After that, you've got interstate travel to the rest of Australia at 5.6 million passengers, and finally international travel accounted for 4.7 million passenger movements. Anyway, on to check-in for today's historic inaugural flight. Do take note, this is actually when I was checking in several hours earlier before you went plane spotting, about 9:40 in the morning, about 3.5 hours ahead of departure. Pretty quiet time in the departures area, to be honest. And yeah, everything is largely a self-service affair here at Perth Airport. Once again, really not a fan of the check-in kiosks, as they don't actually print off physical boarding passes. So unless you visit a manned counter, these kiosks are pretty well forcing you to check in online on your own phone and are only going to print off a bag tag. Bit annoying in my opinion, just a personal preference, but always prefer a physical boarding pass. Anyway, on to self-service baggage drop. Certainly no complaints about these, however. They're all very quick, easy and efficient. Just scan your boarding pass once again, which most likely at this point is going to be on your phone because of said kiosk design. Place your bag on the belt, and then off it goes to Busselton today. All very super quick and easy. Now this is the scene at departures, a lot closer to our inaugural flight, about 1 hour and 20 minutes before. Certainly a bit busier, but yeah, still no real fanfare or any indication of an inaugural flight at this stage. Now it was through Terminal 4 security, a little bit busier than I'm used to for Perth Airport standards, probably about 5 minutes to get through. Lines still move pretty quickly, however. Interestingly enough, my DSLR camera seemed to warrant our explosive trace detection test. And then we're only about 30 or 40 minutes prior to boarding. Time for a bit of wander around and a bit of plane spotting. Absolutely spectacular, mild winter's sunny day here in Perth. Here's our QantasLink Fokker 100, which is not the one we're travelling on today. We'll be departing from a remote gate. That was a quick wander over to Terminal 3. Here you can see the international partition of the terminal quickly emptying out as QF71 boards for Singapore. Anyway, let's now head over to gates 7 to 10, which are the gates that require a short walk out to the aircraft here in Perth. More specifically, we're departing from gate 8. Initially, when I visited the departure point a little bit early, didn't really notice too much fanfare, to be honest. But yeah, upon returning on closer inspection, there certainly seemed to be quite a lot of festivity going on at the gate prior to departure, with at least several representatives from QantasLink, more specifically Network Aviation, including their CEO present. CEO also even came up, kindly introduced himself to me, and we had a really great chat. And it also became very apparent there was many other aviation enthusiasts on the flight as well, including many who had got the bus up from Busselton just to get this flight back. And several fellow aviation enthusiasts even recognised me and came up to say hi, so that was really great. Also great to see Mark, Transport of Perth, covering this flight, as of course Luke from Young Aussie Fly as well.
14. We are boarding by groups today, so please remain clear off the boarding gate. Until now, at gate H. A boarding call for remaining customers will be made shortly. Thank you. Thank you.
And just like that, boarding is finally called for today's historic flight. Heading out Qantas pyjama sets as a bit of a memento for today's occasion. Really great nonetheless, quite ironic getting them for such a short half an hour flight, and a flight that only costs $150. So I guess you don't always have to spend thousands of dollars on a business or first class flight to get them after all. Just take an inaugural flight. As expected, it's a bit of a walk out to our gate 8 today, only a couple hundred metres, but however, not going to really see our first glimpse of the exact aircraft taking us to Busselton, however, till we step out onto the tarmac. As we approach the tarmac, let's have a look at our aircraft information. Our Fokker 100 having the honours of taking us down to Busselton today. So we're flying on Victor Hotel, November Hotel Yankee. This aircraft is 31.9 years of age at time of taking this inaugural flight. It has a pretty interesting history, first delivered to American Airlines in the August of 1993, before it then flew in Brazil for Ocean Air in 2007, Avianca Brazil in May 2010, before it came under the ownership of Network Aviation for QantasLink in June 2015. And just like that, welcome aboard our very retro looking QantasLink Fokker 100. No surprises for guessing, but it has exactly 100 seats on board in a 2-3 all economy class configuration. At your seat, you'll find 31 inches of seat pitch and 17 inches of seat width. That's according to the Qantas website. To be honest, I actually think Qantas are underselling themselves. Seems a lot more spacious than that. Probably the most spacious regular economy class seat had on a plane in Australia, in my opinion. Aside from that, you've got a very generously sized fold-back tray table, which also extends. Very, very sturdy indeed. And of course, your usual Qantas in-flight literature.
Officers Andrew Stevens. We'd like to welcome you to this inaugural flight of QF1750 through to Busselton. It's a pleasure to have you all on board for the first time today. We hope you enjoy the service and the flight. Thank you very much. In front of you, if you're seated at the overwing exit row or row 1, all cabin baggage needs to be stowed in the overhead lockers. If there's no space to stow your bags, please bring them to the front of the aircraft so they can now be checked in. Now time to switch your phone and any other devices to flight mode. You're welcome to use your handheld devices during takeoff, but laptops and other larger electronic devices need to be put away until we're in the air. Devices without flight mode cannot be used at any time.
Anyway, now as we're pushing back, what better time to sit back, relax and enjoy those iconic Fokker 100 rear mounted turbofan engines fire up. Enjoy our rather lengthy taxi out to runway 03 on this very congested Friday afternoon here in Perth. After which we'll finally take off about half an hour behind schedule in a northerly direction before finally making our westerly turn, treating those on the left hand side of the aircraft to some spectacular views of the Perth CBD and Swan River, and those on the right to the port of Fremantle and Rottnest Island. All before of course we then make a final southerly turn towards Busselton. So what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy those stunning views ahead to be had. I'll then go over what it was like on board today's historic inaugural flight. So sit back, relax and enjoy.
Sir Captain speaking. My name is John McCowan, and join me at the front is First Officer Adrian Stevens and Second Officer Trevor Walker. It is our pleasure to welcome you aboard the inaugural flight to Busselton, QantasLink 1750. There's a bit of congestion on the ground, expect to hopefully be on the way shortly. We have a flight time of about 30 minutes. Conditions in Busselton is much the same as per 20 degrees blue skies in the northern degrees. It is a quick flight, so unless there's any separate changes, I'll let you know. Meanwhile, just sit back, relax and enjoy the flight. Welcome aboard.
However, for your safety, it's best to keep it fastened whenever you're seated. For those not familiar with the aircraft, we have 2 toilets located at the rear of the cabin and 1 at the forward. This afternoon, we will be serving a roast beef and mustard sandwich followed by cold drinks only. If there's anything we can do to make you more comfortable, please do not hesitate to ask.
now that we're well and truly on our way to the relatively low cruising altitude of just 16,000 feet, and probably within still the outreaches of Perth's very extensive metropolitan area, let's now have a look at the onboard service for today's flight. And despite literally only being a half an hour flight and probably about 15 minutes actual cruising, I was actually quite shocked to see a pretty decent onboard service. For food, everyone was offered a single option of a roast beef with smoky mustard mayo sandwich, which I thought was very substantial relative to such a short flight. As I had lots to cover in such a short period of time, I just decided to actually take it for the road to have once I got to Busselton. As for drinks, due to the very short flight, it was cold drinks only. No hot drinks, but that was perfectly understandable. Yes, soft drinks, water, even wine and beer were all available. Got a Stonewood Pacific Ale, not a bad beer at all, served by Qantas. Then on to in-flight entertainment. You might not believe it, with these 30-plus-year-old Fokker aircraft, they actually do have Qantas's stream-to-your-own-device entertainment system installed. So you just connect the usual way to the system with flight mode on and also Wi-Fi. Then you'll find the usual range of movies and TV shows, even some audio books and kids content that you'll find on other Qantas aircraft installed with stream-to-your-own-device entertainment. In terms of content and range, not going to say Qantas is a world leader by any means, but yeah, it's certainly not too bad either. Overall, it's a pretty decent selection, and for most people, you're probably going to find something of interest. Aside from that, you also got the in-flight moving map, which, to be honest, for such a ridiculously short flight, is a little bit hard to interpret. So that's the IFE for you. Certainly not going to need it on this ridiculously short flight, but it's handy to know it's there for QantasLink's much longer Fokker 100 services to the likes of Port Hedland, Carafa, or even Broome. Aside from that, not too much more to report about the second half of the flight, other than that it's very smooth conditions for flying today. Yeah, we are rapidly making our way, ironically, down over the forest highway down below. Absolutely zooming past all that southbound traffic, heading the same way as us to Australia's southwest. Then we wander slightly offshore, round about Preston Beach, before we're treated to some absolutely magnificent views of West Australia's southwest coastline and the very long but relatively narrow Lake Preston. Then we're making our way across Geograph Bay, passing the largest regional centre in West Australia outside of Perth and Mandurah. That is, of course, the capital of the southwest, that being Bunbury.
All passengers and crew must now be seated with their seatbelts securely fastened. Thank you.
And just like that, only a short time after passing over Bunbury, now about to make landfall again over Geograph Bay, marking our imminent arrival into Busselton. So what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy some of the highlights of our absolutely spectacular landing into Busselton Margaret River Airport this afternoon. Then when on the ground, I'll go over all the post-inaugural flight speeches and festivities, then my overall final thoughts and verdict on today's historic flight experience.
Smoking, vaping and the use of e-cigarettes is not permitted while disembarking or throughout the terminal. Please take care when opening overhead lockers as baggage may have moved and could fall out. Before leaving, ensure you check your seat and seat pocket for any personal items. Today we'll be exiting through the forward door using the stairs. Please ensure you hold onto the handrail to avoid tripping. Use the designated walkway and refrain from using all electronic devices until you're inside the terminal. If you can reach your phone, you can turn off flight mode now. On behalf of us all here at QantasLink and OneWorld, thank you for choosing to fly with us. If you're visiting Busselton, we hope you enjoy your stay, and of course to those returning, welcome home. And thank you very much everyone for being part of our inaugural Perth to Busselton flight. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Disarm the doors and cross-check.
And just like that, after a very fun-filled and joyful flight, now made it to beautiful Busselton. And it seems like we're attracting quite attention outside, with local TV crews filming our arrival. Certainly not an everyday experience when your flight gets on the news. Anyway, as we're disembarking now, looks like we're going to be treated to an opportunity to have a quick look at the cockpit. And many thanks to all those involved in the operation of this flight for making it such a great experience and extending that opportunity to have a look up front. Really, I am so appreciative.
On a 775 sequencing, cross cab lead time 02 at 250 knots to publish speed. Cross cab lead 02, 250 knots, publish speed,
Anyway, as we disembark our Fokker 100, a little bit about Busselton Airport. Despite its interstate reach, really is a tiny airport. The arrivals hall literally is a glorified shed. Despite that, Busselton Airport now does serve several regularly scheduled flights. Of course, including the QantasLink service we've just been on arriving from Perth, and also Jetstar's 3-time weekly each service to Sydney and Melbourne.
Hello. Good, thanks.
To be honest, it's probably still charter and mining services to Australia's Pilbara region that form bulk of the flights out of here. You got Alliance, QantasLink, Skipper's Aviation and Virgin Australia Regional all providing these services. Anyway, more on what was in the arrival goodie bag a little bit later, but for now let's hear the speeches from the dignitaries here to mark the occasion in full.
Southwest. Firstly, on behalf of the City of Busselton and those gathered here today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Woodland. We also acknowledge their deep connection to land and pay our respects to their elders past and present and to emerging leaders carrying the flag. We also acknowledge their ongoing cultural connection to this land and honour the significant contributions they continue to make to the vibrant life of this city and region. I would like to welcome and acknowledge Trevor Morgan, Chief Operating Officer, Network Aviation and Regional General Manager, Qantas. And Trevor will be talking to us shortly. Also here we have Catherine Allsop, the CEO of Australia Southwest, who will also speak to us, and delegates from Margaret River Busselton Tourism Association and our adjoining Southwest local governments who have advocated for the airport and contributed funding to promote the facility. Also, thank you to Australia Southwest and to Margaret River Busselton Tourism Association who have kindly put together and distributed some gift to the disembarking passengers, and they are full of a lovely welcome and taste of our region. I'll now hand over to Trevor.
Thank you very much, Maxine. Huge thank you to everyone. What a beautiful approach this afternoon was. The sun was shining, glorious, the sea was beautiful, and it was a real privilege to be able to fly there watching that approach. It's quite something. I want to just start by saying this is an incredible opportunity for us here. The 3 flights a week really open up the connections from the East Coast. So we bring across from Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, and open up this area to a huge number of people, and it's got so much to offer. But also it's incredibly exciting connections back across into Perth. Perth is rapidly becoming a huge international connection point, and this will just bring it closer to Busselton, which is really, really exciting. And this really complements the two other services we've announced very recently, both Newcastle and Hobart, which really demonstrates the focus we have on providing more connectivity for Western Australians across the state. So really exciting day. Thank you to all of you for coming out today and supporting the flight. It's an incredible spot we have here, and it was a real privilege to join you. But I'll hand back to Maxine to continue. Thank you.
I'm really proud to be representing the City of Busselton, and it's so exciting to stand here and today mark the arrival of this new service, the QantasLink Perth to Busselton. This will really add to our travel options and offerings at the airport, and this new route is a powerful step forward in improving connectivity, as Trevor said, to our region and beyond. It brings with it a greater choice for local travellers, new opportunities for tourism, and real benefits for our local community in the southwest, hospitality providers, businesses, event organisers, and our vibrant creative industries. As our Mayor so perfectly put it, and he will be very disappointed that he couldn't be here today, unfortunately he's in Canberra, hopefully talking up the airport. This new service means saying goodbye to the long drive, traffic and parking headaches, and saying hello to the 3 convenient weekly flights between Busselton and Perth. With greater connectivity comes greater possibility. This route makes it easier than ever to access existing destinations across Australia and the world, while at the same time opening our doors to visitors from far and wide. In fact, with up to 31,000 seats expected annually between Perth and Busselton, the opportunities for our region to grow, showcase its strengths, and shine on a bigger stage has never been stronger. I want to sincerely thank Qantas for its confidence in Busselton and the broader Southwest region. By expanding its regional network, Qantas is not only investing in its air services, it's investing in people and communities like ours, and the future of this remarkable region. We are incredibly proud of what the city and its airport continues to achieve, and this new service is a testament to its growth and success. Thanks everyone for being part of this major milestone moment, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
With us today. But these flights really are a fantastic step forward for regional connectivity. This region has so much to offer. We've got deep Noongar history and culture that we are looking to share. We've got these wonderful coastlines. Visitors from the East Coast will be coming over. They might want to go for surf, have a wonderful premium food and wine offering. You might want to even go to an event. This is a wonderful place to see arts, culture events, sporting. And look, for me as well, we've worked really hard promoting this region to the East Coast. So for travellers to be able to almost seamlessly travel down to the southwest, cut out that 3-hour drive is so important. And more than that, we see this as a huge investment in what we can offer going forward. So I'd like to give a heartfelt thanks to Trevor, Qantas, and everybody that's put so much towards getting this flight going. So thank you, and welcome again to the passengers from the flight today.
With speeches out of the way, let's now head outside to check out our inbound inaugural flight to Perth Takeoff. Let's just have a look at our goodie bag that we received on arrival. Pretty much just promotional Southwest brochures that you could probably get from the visitors centre. So certainly not as good as what we got on the inaugural Jetstar Asia Singapore to Broome flight, where we literally got a lovely commemorative Broome Jetstar Asia canvas print and some other pretty cool merch as well. But anyway, for now, let's see our QantasLink Fokker 100 return on its inaugural flight back up to Perth. Then we'll head to the world famous Busselton Jetty at sunset to wrap up today's very historic inaugural flight review on the QantasLink Fokker 100 down to Busselton. And just like that, folks, welcome to one of West Australia's most iconic all-time tourism hotspots. That is, of course, beautiful Busselton, one of the largest regional centres here in West Australia's southwest region. As you can see behind me, we've got the absolutely spectacular, world-famous Busselton Jetty behind me, which extends out 1,841 metres from the shoreline, which makes it the longest timber jetty in the Southern Hemisphere. But yeah, onto the flight itself today. Obviously, being an inaugural flight, airlines do tend to put on a bit of an extra show, you would imagine. But yeah, that's certainly no guarantee they're always going to be a great flight. But nonetheless, this was an absolute fantastic flight. Really absolutely enjoyed it. A totally unnecessary flight for someone such as me living in Perth. Can easily drive here in 2.5 hours. But yeah, it was a real fun aviation lover's dream come true nonetheless. And yeah, the whole experience was fantastic. Staying with check-in, could drop my bag about 4 hours early, which was much appreciated, so I could then go plane spotting with Luke from Young Aussie Flight, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, then when we got to the gate, a bit closer to the flight departure, probably wasn't a huge amount of fanfare for inaugural flight. Yeah, just before departure, there was certainly a bit of activity around. A few other YouTubers covering the flight as well, so that was really great to see. Was really happy to meet the CEO of Network Aviation, who enthusiastically came around and introduced himself. So really appreciated that. That was a great chat. Also had a great chat with a few other representatives from the airline. Yeah, at boarding they also handed out Qantas pyjama sets, which was a really cool souvenir from today's flight. Yeah, once on board, the aircraft was in incredibly good condition, as I always have experience with F100s. Certainly my favourite aircraft that regularly operates out of WA, and today was no different. The whole funny thing about today's flight, we probably spent more actually boarding the flight and taxiing out to the runway due to traffic congestion than actually on the flight itself. Yeah, once the flight took off, we had the most amazing views flying out of Perth. Great views of Perth CBD, the Swan River, Optus Stadium and all that sort of stuff before we took a southerly course for Busselton. Yeah, absolutely amazing views scenery wise. Obviously 19A is really the GOAT seat on the Fokker 100. And for a flight which probably only has about 30 minutes of actual flying time, maybe only about 15 minutes of which is actually cruising, it was absolutely quite incredible that they did a really very decent snack and beverage service. So they handed out sandwiches and they also had a full range of drinks on offer, even got a beer. How good is that? So absolutely no complaints for catering. And yeah, did it even seem rushed, which I really thought was going to be a challenge considering how short the flight is. Yeah, it was pretty fun making our way down to Busselton. We were literally chasing traffic on the Forest Highway heading in the same direction. We were certainly doing it a lot quicker. Yeah, then we were treated to a great landing into Busselton, more great views coming in. Absolutely spectacular day for flying. Once landed, even got invited to make a brief visit to the cockpit and meet the pilots. So that was a real absolutely amazing experience, something I haven't actually done before, despite having an aviation-based channel. So that was absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for the opportunity to do that. Really much appreciated. And yeah, there was also a few speeches in the arrivals hall as well. This flight really means the world to the Busselton community, I think, and really helps solidify Busselton Margaret River's expanding network of flights. Already quite a lot of FIFO flights actually depart from Busselton up to West Australia's Pilbara region. Yeah, also you got the Jetstar flights to Melbourne and Sydney 3 times a week each. Now you got the flights to Perth as well, which provide a one-stop connection from Busselton, Australia's southwest, to elsewhere in Australia and even the world. So yeah, really wish Qantas, QantasLink, and more specifically Network Aviation well in these flights. Really hard to see a real life use benefit for Perth-based residents, but yeah, if they can really market it well and connect people in from other flights around Australia, they may just well be on a winner on this flight. So fingers crossed it really does well and really puts Busselton in a position to have more flights to other destinations around Australia, maybe even internationally to places like Bali or Singapore in the future. You just never know. Anyway, that pretty well brings our wrap to today's very enjoyable aviation adventure covering the inaugural, very historic QantasLink Perth to Busselton Fokker 100 service. If you have enjoyed it, really appreciate it. If you could just give the video a like, leave your comments down below, share amongst your family and friends, and of course be sure to check out Luke, Young Aussie Fly's review of today's inaugural as well. But anyway, in the meantime, don't forget to visit my website aussiejetsetter.com.au for latest flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks and more. May even check out my dedicated socials such as my Aussie JetSetter Instagram page, catch up with what I'm doing around the world in real time. Even got a Discord server these days as well for fans and community of the channel to discuss all things aviation and travel. Also have recently started Patreon memberships for the channel as well. So if you want to get on board, support the channel that way, feel free to check out that as well. Link in the description. Every cent raised would just help funding more and more great aviation adventures for you guys to enjoy. But from here on the beautiful shores of iconic Geograph Bay, overlooking the absolutely spectacular Busselton Jetty behind me, thanks so much for watching today's historic inaugural flight review. But until next one, safe travels, wherever that might take you.